So that's something you're going to learn later, okay, is how to trim it. Okay, so now, how to do all that in detail. First thing is centering it, okay? And when you center it, the key to centering is not about how much you can bench, okay? I have big linemen that get thrown around by a little 2-pound piece of clay, okay? It's about being sensitive and feeling what's going on, okay? So basically, if you look at it, I'm leaning in with my shoulders and I'm leaning back with my shoulders. It's not about pushing with our arms or letting go with our hands. It's about just leaning in and leaning out. That's the key to centering. So if you imagine, if I have my piece of clay here, and right now that clay is wobbling all over the place. If I push into that clay and push it past center, and then let go slowly, it will follow my hand till it's straight up and down, and then my hand will move away, and it will stay centered. If I push into it and let go early, it will still wobble. Okay? So I'm trying to push in past center. You can kind of see it even leaning there. And then let go slowly, and it will find center and be good there. Now, before I've coned it, I'm fine with a little shimmy, a little wobble. Okay? Because we cone it to help with that. Clay under a microscope looks like all these little bars, and right now they're meshed all kinds of different directions. We want to get them going in a circle. That circle will make it easier to throw. And so right now this has just a little bit of a wobble, but it's okay. If it was like that, we need to center it a little bit more. Okay? And so I'm okay with just a little bit of a wobble at this point. We're going to cone it. Everyone get your ninja hands out. Okay? So our hands are here. We're going to undercut with our right hand. Okay? Now, do not lift at this stage because the clay and the bat and everything else will come up with it. Okay? So I undercut, but then I bring my right hand straight. And then I come up with my hands and bringing them together. Okay? Now, notice that when I do that, okay, I undercut and I bring them up, I want to offset them. Okay? I don't want to bring them together straight. So I want to offset them as they come up. I'd be very happy if, as a beginner, you got this tall in the next 3 weeks. Okay? Eventually, we're going to get to the point where you can cone a little bit taller. And it might take you a few times physically to get a good tall cone on there. Okay? That would be one cone. But to start with, I'll be honest, it's okay as a beginner if you don't get that tall of cone. Coning is essential the bigger the amount of clay you go with. Because you got to get those particles going in a circle. And so right now with 2 pounds of clay, we can get by with a little bit of a not so great cone. At the point that we are ready to push it back down, act like you're centering it. This is one of the few times that your elbow can get off your leg. That elbow's got to be implanted on your leg. But one of the few times you should get it up and above and push down and bring it back down to center. Okay? And if you have to, you can center it up a little bit and then you can cone it for a second time. Again, undercut it, press in, and pull up. And we'll push that back down. Okay, after we've coned it twice, it's essential that we get a very good cone, or a center to it. A lot of students, when they're centering it, will have too flat of a hand, okay, and they'll make kind of a pyramid-looking thing. Okay, we want it straight on the sides. Okay, so if anything, undercut it more with your hand, so that it's straight. It has a straight wall to it. Also, if there's any clay down here, you should scrape that away, because that clay, your hand's just going to float up on it, and you're not going to get the bottom centered. Okay. Once it is centered, now we're ready to drill it. Okay. Now we want to drill in the middle, and I can visually look at it and go, well, the middle's right about there. Okay. But what happens is you just kind of become hoping and poking. Okay. We want to feel the middle and know we are in the middle. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to use our left hand to be kind of our guide hand. And we're going to take our thumb and just put it next to the hole, but so I can still see it. Our right pointer finger is going to come up along next to my thumb. Kind of like I'm playing a little miniature game of pool. Okay? And I'm going to be right here pointing at the middle. Now, your fingernail should be pointing to the side. If it's pointing straight up, these 3 fingers are out on their own. I want those fingers to be grasped on to my thumb of my left hand. And so I can be right here. I don't need to start way out here. I can start very close to the middle and just a little downward and inward pressure. And I make a little cone. And I'm going to push through that cone. Down and in. And you might have to stop once to kind of get that clay off the tip of your finger. But I'm going to push through that cone. And when the cone disappears, Don't stop. A lot of beginners, the cone disappears and they're like, okay, I'm at the middle, and they drill. You're not getting you'll feel your finger getting sucked down. So you want to push until the tip of your finger feels the other side of the clay, and then you'll feel that. You'll feel, hey, my finger's getting sucked down, and then you can invert your finger and push down. Okay? If you're off at this stage, you get a restart. You're done. There's not a way to fix it. Okay? You have to restart. And so all the time that you spend coning and centering is for naught. So you want to make sure you have the middle. Okay? There's two types of throwers. There's the aggressive thrower, okay, that makes a bunch of mush, and there's the sensitive thrower that nothing ever happens. Okay? If you're the aggressive thrower, we're going to work on your sensitivity training and make you feel what's going on a little bit, then rather than just trying to force it to go where it wants. And if you're the sensitive type, we're going to work on making you a little bit more aggressive so that you push that clay where it needs to go. Okay? And so you'll find very soon what you have. Once you've drilled it, we should have a 1/2 inch thickness of clay at the bottom. Okay? We want that. If anything, lead to the side of more on the bottom than less. So 1/2 inch, 3/4 fine. Okay? You can't have too much clay at the bottom. It gives you more options to trim it. But you can't have too little that you trim through the bottom. Okay? What I want all beginners to do until they've thrown their first bowl is to take the needle tool at this point and jam it all the way to the back. Then take their finger, glide it down the side till they hit the clay, and then grab onto everything and pull it out. And that will show you how thick your bottom really is. Okay? And I want to see a 1/2 inch thickness. Once you've thrown your first bowl, you're probably at the stage where you can get a feel for that, and you don't have to stab it every time. That little hole does nothing to your pot. You don't have to worry. It's not going to dribble out a bunch of milk in the morning when you go and eat out of your bowl. It will seal over. Okay? At this point, I'm now going to open the hole. So I'm going to put my finger in there and I'm going to hook it. And you're not going to see me do that. Once it's hooked, though, I'm going to pull back with my left hand. Okay? The left hand glides evenly, and I can just pull it back. A lot of beginner students want to pull with their pointer finger. The problem with that is as they pull it back, that finger actually goes down. Okay? And so then they drill through the bottom. And so we want to pull with our left hand. So I'm locked in, and I'm just going to hook my finger, and now I'm going to pull back. And when I get ready to release, I need to let up slowly. Anytime I let go of the clay at this point, I want to let go slowly. If I stop quickly, it's going to wobble, restart. Okay? At this stage, I want to talk about it. Don't pull the middle any wider than the base. If you pull the middle wider than the base, it will collapse. Okay? So you got to be really careful that you don't pull this past. This is about as close as you want to get. If you pull it wider, it's going to collapse. Okay? So we want to really watch that we don't do that. Okay? After we've pulled it open, we start to grab our sponge. Most of the time when we hold our sponge, we hold it like this. Make like a little cops and robbers gun. Set it on your barrel there, and then grab on to the sponge. So really, it's wrapped around our pointer finger so that it keeps it smooth. A sponge is great in that as I'm throwing, if the pot gets wet or dry, okay, I can remove the water or I can add the water depending on what I need to do. Yep. Yep. At this stage, I want to compress the bottom. Extremely important with porcelain, advanced students. And so with my finger, I'm just going to kind of run it back and forth and make it flat and smooth. A lot of beginners, you'll have little belly buttons at the bottom of your pot. Okay? And so we want to make that smooth and flat. All right, now I have a really ugly ashtray, which we're not going to be allowed to keep. And so we need to make this into a bowl. And so the first pull that we do is called the claw pull. The claw pull is more than anything a setup pull. Okay? Now you're going to see me do this and go, wow, that really took off. And it's great to move a lot of clay, but it's more than anything a setup pull in that I want to take the clay and have it tapered so that it's thinner at the top and thicker towards the bottom. Because if it's thicker at the top and thinner at the bottom, it's going to rip off and kind of make a donut. Okay? And we don't want that. So how I do the claw pull is all with my left hand. My middle finger's on the inside, my thumb is on the outside. And so basically, it's a pinching action just with my thumb. A lot of beginners are going to do this. Okay? I want to push with just my thumb. Once I pushed in, and I've got about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch apart, I'm going to slide my thumb up. Not pull up, but slide it up. If I'm throwing a bigger piece, like 5 pounds, then I would slide it up and pull up at the same time. Okay? And that's where you'll see some advanced students do that and think that it's a pull-up action. It's just a slide up with a thumb action. My sponge sits on top. I'm not pushing down here. I'm just compressing the rim as I go and supporting that rim as I'm going along. So you're going to see me kind of indent it and then slide the thumb up and it should taper in just a little bit if you do it right. Okay, so it should have a slight taper in, and that tells you you're doing it right, as opposed to come out. Centrifugal force wants to throw this out. A bowl is the easiest thing to throw because the clay wants to be thrown out. That's why we're doing a bowl first. Okay, but to get some height, we got to try to keep it in line. As soon as it goes straight up and down, that next bowl is going to come out. So because of centrifugal force. After the claw pull, my thumb is no longer long enough to reach the bottom, and so the thumb becomes extended by the right hand, and so now it becomes finger pulls. And I want you to try to get your pulls done in no less than 4 finger pulls. Okay? If it takes you less, great. If it takes you more than 4, it means you're too sensitive. You need to be more aggressive with it. Okay? More than 4 finger pulls, you start to end up with just slip, and your pot is just going to crumble and wither and die, because water, although it's great to keep it slippery, is also our enemy. Too much water and your pot starts to erode. Never allow water to sit at the bottom of your pot, so you can always suck that out. All right, so finger pull, I'm basically kind of like a little lobster here, okay? My thumbs kind of lock in like a little butterfly, and then my middle fingers come together, and I'm holding that sponge in between that outside finger. So I push in, and then I just slowly pull that up. And as I come up, I may need to use less pressure. Like right now, it's thinned out, so I don't need to pinch anymore. I just need to support. And before I let go of the clay, 2 things. Make sure the clay is a circle, it's not an oval. And then act like it's another inch or 2 inches taller and continue to come up. A lot of students get here and they freak out and they just let go, and then the pot wobbles and then they got to restart. Okay? So act like it's another inch or 2 tall and just keep coming up nice and slow until your fingers are off of it. Okay? Don't stop your pull. Always finish your pull. After every finger pull, I want you to compress your rim. Your rim is like your backbone of your pot. If it's wet, it'll be flimsy, and then your pot's going to want to fall over. So all we do to compress a rim is simply make a C with our left hand, support that clay, take the sponge, lay it over top, and very lightly just kind of press down subtly. More than anything, I'm taking the slip off the rim, okay? And so that water won't erode my rim. Okay? From here up, it's great. It's all the same thickness. From here down, it's thicker, okay? So that's the part we need to thin out, okay? As an advanced student, I want you to work on your pull, and then when you get to that thin spot, rather than just